Ben, good morning, everyone. Mishnah 17 in the first chapter of Pirkei Avot. Shimon beno Omer, Shimon his son, said the following. So Shimon was the son of Rabban Gamliel, who was the author of our previous Mishnah. This was Hillel's great-grandson. Hillel's son was called Shimon, but we know very little about him. His grandson, Rabban Gamliel, became the head of the Sanhedrin, and he passed away in 57 of the Common Era. And his son, Shimon, took over and became the head of the Sanhedrin and lived through the Great Revolt, leading to the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 of the Common Era. As a matter of fact, although he actually was in favor of trying to make peace with the Romans, there were factions at that time, and there was certainly a very strong faction, some of the older people, who said that trying to make war against the mightiest empire in the world is not a great idea. Nevertheless, the Zealots were the ones who won out in this particular battle. Rabbi Shimon himself was on the side of the peacemakers, but as in his position as head of the Sanhedrin, he was a representative of the Jewish people, and the Romans looked upon him in that way and considered him to be part of the rebellion, and he was subsequently beheaded by the Romans, and is one of the 12 martyrs that we read about on Yom Kippur and on Tisha B'Av, as it happens. He too, like the previous Mishnah, Rabban Gamliel, says three things, all of which have a common theme. And the first thing he says is, Kol yemei gadalti bein hachachamim, all my life, all my days, I grew up amongst the sages. V'lo matzati leguf tov mishtika, and I found nothing better for the body than silence. You can imagine the house that he grew up in. His father was the head of the Sanhedrin. There would have been all the great sages, the great leaders, the great scholars of that generation would have been around the table of the home that he grew up in. He would have heard an abundance of discussion, etc. Amongst the sages, we are a very verbal religion, and discussion, debate, argumentation, etc., is the very core of our enterprise. And he would have heard an enormous amount of speaking and discussion and argument in his own, not just in regard to Torah matters, but of course the growing political crisis that was occurring all around them. He would have sat there as a young person taking this all in. Nevertheless, he arrives in his own life at the conclusion that the best thing is to be shtum. Just remain quiet. There's nothing better than that, he says. That's his first statement. V'lo hamidrash ikir ela ma'aseh. His second statement is that learning, not learning, but doing is the main thing. Once again, learning is about speaking and talk. You can have all the best intentions in the world. You can make all the kinds of promises you want. You can be the greatest scholar with deep understanding. Actually, in this world, it counts for little compared to doing the right thing. Action is what counts more than speech. And finally, v'chol hamarbeh devarim, that whoever talks overly much, mevi chet, will bring himself to sin. In other words, if you keep talking and you talk for long enough, you can be pretty certain you're going to put your foot in it somewhere down the line. So it's best to shut up while you're still ahead. And that's exactly what I'm going to do.